I learned a whole bunch.
Well, you
about
better
women,
be succinct because we only have about 30 minutes. But hit us.
a whole bunch about women and a whole bunch about men. I learned about a lot of things. I mean, I guess I never really intended on being a. I have a lot of hate on the internet. A lot of guys say that I'm a pimp and I exploit girls, and then some other guys understand it from my angle, and that's I've never forced anyone to do anything they don't want to do, and that the girls are sitting on a computer, no one's fucking them. They're sitting on a computer, they're getting paid just like if they were sitting in any other job and getting paid. They just haven't got their top on. So really, it was a job. You know, I kind of got started where I had two or three beautiful girlfriends from fighting all around the world. I was fighting and I had some beautiful girls, and I was kind of thinking in my head, well, can I open a strip club? Will I make money with a strip club? But at the time, I didn't have money to invest in a strip club. And while I was doing my research, I discovered this whole webcam thing because I didn't even know it existed. I thought, pretty girls can sit on computers and make money. And that's kind of how it started. Went from there and ended up having a bit of a cam empire. At one point, I was doing $500,000 a month profit.
Right. So, Andrew's talking about how he made money. It's, it's sketchy, but I mean, if you know anything about Andrew, he's now in a metal box because of this. So, because, he's supposedly an A-word for doing this or something. He probably bothered the wrong people or didn't bribe the right people or something. Who knows? But anyway, that's what happened. And yeah, this is an old interview. So this is before he was famous. So he's gonna be a bit more, I guess you could say vulgar than usual, but it's fine. Yeah, I don't take delight in his folly, as it were. Okay, let's continue.
So yeah, it got big, and that was it really. I never really was.
But
never
now worth $500,000 a month. You're saying the headache was too big for $500,000 a month.
The thing is this.
You must have hated it. It must have gotten really bad.
When you're working with women, women are highly unpredictable.
Indeed.
So, and women are not money motivated. So I got to a point where the only way you can really get the women to work for you, you have two choices. You either try and convince them into some kind of business arrangement, which doesn't work long term because women are emotional, or you get girls who are in love with you and do it because they love you and they want to do as you say and be around you.
So you say women aren't money motivated. What is their motive? What would motivate them?
Relationships. Chad. Women will do basically whatever Chad wants and no one else. And if they don't have Chad, then they're going to spend their time trying to get Chad. So what that means is that women are basically more feral, or they're more driven by their biology than men are. I mean, men are also driven by their biology to be logical, in the same way that women are driven by their biology to be emotional. But what I'm saying is that men can repress their own biological urges using that logic, which means that they're less, driven purely by their biological instinct. And for women, that's hypergamy, which is to find a superior man, to find a superior male, and have children with him and have that sort of thing. Okay, let's do the intro. Hello and welcome to the Heliosblog. My name is Helios, here for another reaction video. If you're new to the channel, liking the content, hit that sub, hit all for notifications. If you'd like to support me, I do have a Patreon with exclusive content, newly revamped, patreon.com/theheliosblog. Again, it's patreon.com/theheliosblog. Just go there and subscribe. I have weekly content posting, guys. You could also drop me a donation like Tom M here. Shout outs to him. The link is in the description. Okay, let's continue.
Women are absolutely and utterly motivated by fun and attention. Those two things. If a woman has a lot of attention and a lot of fun in her life, she's uninterested in anything else. So when I say women aren't money motivated, what I mean is they don't want to make their own money. And I know this from experience. If I had a girl who would sit down and make, let's say, $1,000 in 2 hours, I'd sit and think, okay, you can make $10,000 a week. She'd think I only have to work 2 hours and have the rest of the week off. They have a completely different attitude towards being rich. They want a rich man because they want fun, but they don't want to have their own money or pay for things. They don't care. They just want fun to be facilitated. They're uninterested in the cost of anything. Yeah, I've done this many times with very many beautiful girls. I've been on boats in Dubai with supermodels. I've had girls in my Lamborghini. I've done because I've got a bit of money, and I've said to them, "How much do you think this costs?" They don't even know. They don't even know how much a Lambo costs. They don't know how much a boat costs. They don't know.
That's right, and frankly, they don't want to know. It's here's the thing: women don't actually understand how much men have to work to facilitate their reality. And a lot of women, especially if they're super pretty, they live in a reality distortion bubble. Every man has always done stuff for them. And of course, they don't appreciate cost because they get it all for free. So by solipsism, which is women's default, they assume that everybody's like them. So they assume that what the guys have is gotten for free or easily, right? Just like they can get it. Of course, they fail to realize that for them, they can only get stuff easily when they're like 18 to 23. But anyway, I digress.
They don't know how much the dinner is. They don't know that the table in the club is $5,000. They have no concept of money in the way a man has concept of money, because it's just provided for them at the top. If they're top level, they have no idea what money even is.
So you're saying that, you know, women who are going after guys with money, they're not really going after the money. You're saying they're going after the fun.
Absolutely. They're not going after the cash. They're going after what the money provides.
Right.
So
That's exactly true. And there's more. Women don't love you as a man for who you are as a person. Like, you know, your intrinsic value or, you know, that kind of stuff. No. They love you for what you can provide, the value that you add, the things that you give her. So she loves you for your height. She loves you for your ability to have bedroom fun. She loves you for your money, for your apartment, for your car. She loves you for your, you know, for your job. She loves you for the things you buy her. She loves you for that. And should you drop and not be able to provide those things anymore, her hypergamy tells her that you're not a superior man anymore. Oh, and for your charisma, of course. I forgot to mention that. And you know, how interesting you are. And if you can't provide that, then she'll find a guy who will. Because women have this thing called the war brides dynamic. So if her husband were to die, women are much easier, much better at moving on to a new guy. Because in evolutionary past, it was quite likely that the husband would get, you know, would meet a horrible end, right? And the women that didn't move on, that were crushed, and that couldn't move on from their past husband, they didn't reproduce, right? Or they reproduced less. And what's funny is that even in 2023, alpha widows, which are, you know, a girl that married an alpha or she slept with an alpha once, whatever, all of their future relationships are wrecked. And by that, I mean they always treat the new guy with disdain. But it doesn't mean that she doesn't get a new guy. You see what I'm saying? So she might disdain the new guy. She might treat him like garbage. She might use him. But she's willing to do that rather than being alone. That's the idea.
They're going after a guy who has the ability to take a time off work to go skiing. They're going after a guy who has the ability to fix their problems if they have a problem. They're going after a guy who has status or is high power or someone that makes them feel important standing next to. They don't actually care about what's in the bank or how much you spend. And we've seen this time and time again. You can
What
look
about
at
the
plenty
security aspect? You know that aspect?
That's later on. The security aspect of long-term provisioning, that starts to happen at the age of 30, 32, 35, depends on the girl. That's called beta bucks. So that's like, I've had my fun and I'm ready to settle down. So the girl sleeps around with Chad, which are guys like what Andrew just described. Guys like Andrew, right? This is girls at the top, right? The absolute most attractive girls that are the most competitive in the world. And then, once they're no longer able to compete, if they've wasted their time, if they haven't married one of these guys, because a lot of these girls, if they know what they're doing, they will marry one of these guys. And then they'll try to change him and betaize him to get that long-term provisioning forever, right? To be able to provide for their children. But most women are not able to do it. And so what happens is they sleep around with Chad. And then at 30, 32, 35, it depends on the girl, 37, whatever. Then they marry a beta box, like a loser man, a guy who doesn't come close to comparing to the guys that she was sleeping with when she was young and beautiful and competitive. And she always disdains him. She uses him as a wallet. She doesn't give him bedroom fun. She treats him like utter garbage. But he is useful in that he can provide for her children, if she's had children with Chad, because some women do that. They'll have a child with Chad and then get a guy to take care of her bad decisions. That's called a single mother, or a baby mama or whatever. Or she'll have kids with this guy just to make sure that her and her children, because in her mind, this guy's just a wallet, right? So they're not really his children, are provided for, right? And that's that. So there is the security aspect. It's just not important at the age when men are actually interested in women. I mean, if you look at the statistics for, online dating, right? What you'll see is that men of all ages, they are looking for a girl who's 22, 23, around there, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older, but they're certainly not looking for a 35-year-old girl who's had her fun and is ready to settle down. And this is why 35-year-old women have such trouble getting 35-year-old men, unless they were with him earlier, right? Like, let's say they started dating when she was 25 and he was 28, right? And now he's 35 and she's 32. The guy will likely stay if she's shown good behavior. But if she's 32 and she's trying to attract the 35-year-old, no chance. Because she didn't. If you didn't give him any of your prime, why should he take you in your decline? That's the idea.
Women want the security because we're just talking about the fun. So you're saying they don't care about security?
They don't.
No, I don't think so at all, because you can look at some very, very wealthy men that are getting destroyed in divorce courts. The richest man in the world just got destroyed. And you can look at guys who are unable to provide security, but they give a girl lots of fun, like the gardener who's banging the old rich wife. So I think women are just completely and utterly motivated by their emotions. And if you can spike an emotion in them one way or another, then you're going to be able to affect her in a positive way.
And there's more. It doesn't matter how you spike her emotions. And actually, the guy that can spike her emotions both ways is even more attractive. So what I mean is, an imperfect alpha is extremely attractive to girls. So a guy who's not perfect. So like, she feels good, she feels good, she feels good, she feels bad. She goes back to feeling good, she goes back to feeling bad, she goes back to feeling good, she goes back to feeling bad. And this is, in my opinion, why women stay with A-word husbands. The guys that you see in movies and they're like so bad, and you're like, how could she possibly stay with this guy? It's because she goes up, she goes down, she goes up, she goes down. And if you think about the emotional amplitude, if we're thinking about this in terms of math, the emotional amplitude is huge. And so that guy is more emotionally relevant, right? He's much more likely to get alpha widowed by that guy.
I think I've said this time and time again, even if a woman hates you, you're in a better position than if she's apathetic towards you. Women are
absolutely
generally apathetic towards men. They ignore men, they don't answer their messages, they don't care about anything. If you can get any emotion out of a girl, even if it's hate, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, the opposite of love isn't hate, the opposite of love is indifference. That's the principle there. Okay, let's read an article by Rollo. Equalism and masculinity. So again, just read the Rational Male. If you don't want to read it yourself, I'm actually reading it as an audiobook on my Patreon. All right, equalism and masculinity. What a lot of womanists hate about RP theory is that it simply does a better job of predicting social behavior than womanism ever has. I like to think that RP awareness has fundamentally altered, or enlightened if you like, intergender interpretations and understanding in a relatively short time, but that would be a mistake. There's a distinct group of self-evincing RP guys who like to remind us in various comment threads that it hasn't always been thus. This story is our forebears knew better with regard to how men and women ought to interact with one another, and essentially spelled this out for future generations in the religious and philosophical texts of antiquity. Actually, I don't think that's what happened. I think it's this. I think people understood female nature properly thousands of years ago, and it just comes off in their writing. Organically. They weren't doing it on purpose. They were trying to write a text for how you should act, and it came out that you should also treat women this way. It wasn't their intention. I don't know if that makes sense. Their intention was to teach you how to be a good man, right? And in doing so, it was very obvious what kind of society they lived in and the implied behavior towards women, right? While I can't deny the merit of this, I also know that the men of these bygone eras didn't have anything approaching the mass of information about the connectivity men possess today. It's easy to get caught up in the romanticism of the idea that back in some golden age of manhood, men knew about the dangers of allowing women's hypergamous natures to run amok. I'm sure these men knew of the consequences of allowing women to control their fates. I'm sure there were beta men and, C-star CK'd men as well, but even the most wise alpha among them could never, for instance, understand the impact that a unilaterally feminine-controlled form of birth control would affect upon a globalized society. The sages of manhood past may still have many relevant lessons for the men of today, but they simply lack the compounded experiences and understanding men possess now. Though they undoubtedly were keen observers of human behavior, the greatest thinkers of antiquity simply didn't have an inkling as to the evolved biological motivators of the bedroom fun strategies our psyches developed in our hunter-gatherer human past. What frustrates the advocates of this bygone manhood wisdom is that for all of our collective experience and knowledge, for the past 60 or so years, men struggle to come to terms with what masculinity should mean to them. For all of the accumulated male experience and relation of it that's led to RP awareness, men still grapple with what being a man means to them. Undoing of a man. When I do consults with men of all ages, I have to begin to form a presumption about what those men's concept of masculinity is, and it's usually the result of a deliberate attempt by the woman imperative to confuse men about being a man should be. Even the men who tell me that they were raised by the most dominant, positively masculine fathers still suffer the internalized effects from this feminized effort to cast doubt on one's masculinity. Recently, NPR began a series of articles attempting to suss out what it means to be a man in the 21st century. I do listen to NPR, and while I know bias will always be an inevitable part of news stories, I couldn't help but assess what a morass attempting to define masculinity has become for contemporary men. Each story, each attempt to redefine masculinity, relied on the same tired tropes the feminine imperative has been using for men since the start of the bedroom fun revolution. Weakness, vulnerability is sold as strength, submissiveness and compromise to the feminine is sold as support, and deserving of praise and a reciprocal appreciation, which never manifests in women. Beta is alpha, and alpha is insecure, bluster, and compensation. Those are the main premises, and to a large degree, most RP-aware men realize that behavior is the only true determinant of motivation, and reject the feminized, egalitarian, equalist messaging. However, what still surprises me is that this same deliberate effort to cast doubt on what masculinity should be for a man hasn't changed its message or methods of conditioning men to adopt this masculine confusion for almost 40 years now. Through the late 80s and up to now, the idea of anything positively masculine is either ridiculed, cast as M-word, or implies a man might be into other men if he's too celebratory of his maleness. Since the start of the bedroom fun revolution, any definition of what masculinity truly should mean has been subject to the approval of the feminine. In the absence of a clear definition of what masculinity is for men, the feminine is free to create as grotesque a straw man of ugly masculinity or as beatific a feminized model of masculinity as it needs to serve its purpose. With the aid of the male catch-22, blurring and distorting masculinity, raising and conditioning men to accept ambiguity and doubt and the security of a manhood they're encouraged not to define for themselves, they're all the methodologies employed to ensure a feminine primary social order. So it's literally divide and conquer is the idea. Equalism versus complementarity. Agreeableness and humility in men has been associated with a negative predictor of bedroom fun partners. The problem inherent in applying reciprocal solutions to gender relations is the belief that these relations are in any way improved by an equilibrium between both genders' interests. The cardinal rule of bedroom fun strategies. For one gender's strategy to succeed, the other must compromise or abandon their own. The mistake is applying a humanistic, egalitarian, equalist ideal to human bedroom fun strategies that evolved over millennia to be complementary to each other, and not an equitable exchange of resources to be negotiated over. This is one reason genuine desire cannot be negotiated. This fundamental is rooted in our most primal, complementary understanding of bedroom fun. The point at which egalitarian equalism, which is the religion of womanism, fundamentally fails is presuming that intergender relations should ideally exist in a goal state of egalitarian equalism and or reciprocally equal state of mutually supportive interests. Hypergamy doesn't care about equalism and reciprocity. The genders evolved to be complementary to each other for the betterment of the species. Why do you think women form the most secure emotional attachments to men 1 to 2 SMV steps above themselves? Why is masculine dominance such an attractive male aspect for even the most womanist of women who'd otherwise plead for equality? Okay, and here's a quote. I have a bit of a weird relationship with traditional masculinity. I've looked critically at it enough to know how much damage it does as a paradigm. I've seen the harm it can do to both men and women on an individual level. I've been subject to the violence it encourages, but despite all that, holy God, does it ever turn me on. There's something about assertiveness, let's be real, sometimes flat arrogance, that does it for me. No matter how much I can be attracted to someone emotionally and intellectually, I swoon only when confronted by a powerful, competent man. This has led to some issues in my personal life. Who knew being attracted almost exclusively to men that inherently make bad partners wouldn't work well for me? That's chasing Chad. All right, back to this video here.
I have plenty of girls I sleep with who I'm sure hate me. But,
so you're saying they'll pay more attention to when you can bring out more of a
emotional reaction,
more of an intense emotion.
That's right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what the emotion is. Exactly.
As long as it's not bored. As long as it's not lack of emotion, which is what would be like boredom.
Boredom. Yeah. As long as you're not doing the same thing over and over, right? Like yeah. And if it is the same thing over and over, then she's gonna make some drama to cycle her emotions. If you're not cycling them, she'll cycle them for you.
You can do anything you want to a woman except bore her. And this is absolutely a fact of life. You look at these girls who stay in these abusive relationships. I'm not going to say anything crazy, but it's true. Why do they stay so long? Because I don't buy that. I was forced to stay for 10 years. You were at the grocery store every day. You could have called the police anytime. Why did you stay for 10 years? Well, maybe it's sick. Maybe there's something wrong with you and there's something wrong with him. But one way or another, there is some kind of emotional response there that you were enjoying. The extreme jealousy or the fact that he was so obsessed with you, or there's something about certain toxic relationships that even women enjoy. This is the reality of nature, of human nature. And if you can provoke an emotion in a female, no matter what it is, and I'm not saying it's easy to do, but if you can provoke an emotion, you're always going to be better than if she's bored or you provoke no emotion. That's when she.
That's right. And this is why you have to be unafraid of saying no. That's the biggest way to provoke emotions. So she says, do X, and you're like, no. Or, no, we're going to do what I want to do. And then she'll get mad. Okay, but if she gets mad, that means that, or sad, or upset, or whatever, it means you're provoking emotions in her, something that most men are unable to do. Most men are afraid to rock the boat, and so most men never have that emotional response from the girl. So most men never get the attraction, the true, genuine desire because of that.
She's going to absolutely and utterly disappear.
What would you say for a guy who doesn't have money to do fun, crazy, wild things?
You don't need money.
You don't need money.
The idea that you need money is a complete fallacy. I'll tell you.
It's true, because again, women don't appreciate money, so it doesn't matter. Like, if you're able to trigger emotions, it doesn't matter how much money you have. So let's say you're Chad and you're good at bedroom fun. You could be like banging it out on a mattress. It doesn't matter, because she's feeling that crazy emotion, right? This is why women like being spicy stars so much, right? You don't know the guy. He's hitting it really hard. She's having a great time, or whatever. Go on an adventure, somewhere. It doesn't have to cost money. It just has to be interesting and different, right? You can be creative and it'll be good. It doesn't matter about money, actually.
I do this now because I got rich relatively quickly. I was completely broke, and then I became a world champion fighter, and then I had this cam business. So I literally, in the space of 4 years, I went from earning a couple grand a month to hundreds of thousands a month. So I got rich very fast, and I can tell you that it makes pretty much no difference. In fact, if you make too much money, it can be detrimental, because then you have the problem where you're sitting there on dates with girls and they're like, there's no way this guy would ever want to be a boyfriend to me. He just wants to use me. He has a Lambo. He has this girl. He's here. He's there. So it can be detrimental. You don't need money. You need the ability to provoke emotion. Now,
yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. And this is why there's so many rich guys out there that aren't getting laid, or they are, but they're not getting genuine desire, right? They're getting transactional bedroom fun. The girl's only with them for the car or whatever, and she doesn't actually like the guy.
If you have money in the bank, that's a bit easier. It's a bit easier to provoke emotion if you can say, let's go Disneyland tomorrow. But it's not about the money. It's about the spontaneity. It's about for provoking the emotion. This is why girls like funny guys, because it makes them laugh. It's provoking an emotion out of them.
Yeah, except they don't like funny guys. When like 90% of the time when women laugh, they're actually laughing not at a joke. They're laughing at the emotions triggered by a guy's impertinence or arrogance or whatever. Yeah, anyway. Okay, here's our Reddit article. It was posted 3 hours ago on relationship advice. Asked for open relationship and now can't stand the pain. By the way, You guessed it, guys. The guy is younger than the girl. 34 male, 36 female. Me and my wife have been together for 17 years. About a year ago, I asked to open our relationship, mainly because I was severely lacking intimacy and feeling super stressed. We have 3 kids and jobs. I spend the lion's share of time taking care of the family. She agreed and mentioned she also wanted that, was too afraid to ask, which means the relationship is over, by the way. I found a partner after a while, a beautiful and amazing woman. The bedroom fun is incredible. I'm very affectionate still with my wife. She means literally the world to me. Being with the other woman makes me love my wife even more. So this is the natural reaction. Now my wife also has a partner and I feel like I'm dying. I don't understand how anyone does this. I can't think or sleep. I'm strong on the outside for her sake since she's been for me, but inside I don't know how I can survive another moment of this. I feel like I can't even sleep next to her. My heart is pounding out of my chest. I feel like there's no good way forward. I've crafted my own hell. I want to run to this other woman just so I can feel normal, but my wife is the one I want. How the hell does anyone do this? Is there any other reprieve from this intense gut-wrenching grief? Yes. You don't do an open relationship. Here's why. Girls get attention much easier than guys. Girls get bedroom fun much easier than guys. Easy for her to cheat, hard for you, even if you're much more attractive than her. And no guy wants to be C***ed. No guy wants it. So if you put yourself in a position where the girl is allowed to cheat and she cheats, your biology as a man is going to go nuts because it's not right. A man can have multiple girls and the girl can be happy and the guy can be happy. And there'll be a lot of emotions, right? Because the girl will be afraid that the guy is, he wants the other girl more, la la la, and that jealousy creates intense emotion and, yeah. So, just keep that in mind. Okay. 326 upvotes. God, I love these posts. Okay. 153 upvotes. Play stupid games, win stupid prize. It's always some idiot who thinks opening the marriage up will solve problems, and every single time, against all advice, they end up in a similar predicament. Don't open your marriage, and it won't work. I'm sorry, but if you want your wife back, you still have to close the marriage. But since it was your bright idea to open it, be fully aware she may not want to anymore, and that's entirely your fault. If it does not work and your wife continues to see another man, you can live with it or file divorce. Exactly. Mess entirely of your own making. Yeah. One-sided open marriages work, where the guy is sleeping around and the girl is loyal. If the girl is disloyal, marriage is over. Relationship is over. Because women, they only love one man at a time, right? So she loves Chad now, and you're the useful beta bitch. Congratulations. You just C***ed yourself. Okay, we're going to end the video there. Again, if you're new to the channel, liking the content, hit that sub, hit all for notifications. If you'd like to support me, I do have a Patreon with exclusive content, newly revamped, guys, posting content every week. Patreon.com/theheliosblog. Just go there and subscribe. Again, it's patreon.com/theheliosblog. So I have deleted videos on there. I have audiobooks, so I'm literally reading books in a curated RP list, so you can, get better educated. And also RP scientific literature, so you can understand the science behind why we do what we do. And then you can also drop me a donation, like Tom M here. Shout outs to him. The link is in the description. All right, guys, that's it for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, especially if you made it to the end. Really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, guys. You're wonderful, and I will see you next time.